Hello.
Hello and welcome
I,
to the future of women, web, and work. How are you, Susie?
I'm safe. I'm healthy, and I hope that you are because you are in Quezon City.
Everything is beautiful. That's what I always say these days. Um, Again, welcome everybody. You are watching the future of women, web, and work, a show that puts a spotlight on entrepreneurs and industry experts so that they can share lessons and insights that will encourage an honest conversation around what it takes to build a life and business that you love in the post-pandemic world. I'm Sarah Fernandez, and I founded the Next Wave Co., a strategic consultancy offering advice, marketing services, tools, resources, the confidence, and the motivation to sustainable SMEs wanting to launch or scale their socially responsible business in Asia. So if you're tuning in live, say hi in the comments so we can greet you on the show and tell us where you're from.
Hello, everyone. My name is Susie Abella, and I'm the Chief Passion Coach of the modernmaria.co, an online coaching and mentoring company which aims to empower aspiring entrepreneurs and coaches to use their passion to create their own freedom in the form of entrepreneurship and online coaching. So, we created the future of women, web, and work to create an online community that brings together women from all over the world who are prioritizing their dreams, personal growth, and living a passion fueled life. And this show is a place for us to collaborate, share, ask questions, keep each other accountable, and support one another as we do what we love, whether it's a business, an artistic pursuit, or an alternative lifestyle. So today's show is a special partnership with ESME Philippines, an e-learning platform or marketplace for Filipinos. And now I'm going to ask you something. If this show is valuable to you and if you've watched our past episodes and learned from the future of women, web, and work, we would love it if you can share this to your friends, to your family, to everyone who's online right now in your feed, and let us know once you've shared it so we can thank you. Also, let us know where you're from and what are you working on right now, whether it's business or any passionate pursuit. And if you have questions for our guests, the comment section is open. We will mention you in the show if you have questions or comments, and we'll see you later.
Yes, that is correct. So, as Women's Month comes to an end, we are putting the spotlight on an industry that bears our culture and heritage, and the woman who is providing livelihood to Indigenous people who are keeping this ancient tradition alive. Our guest today is Gwendolyn Torres, who, through education and tech, is on a mission to reclaim sustainable culture. With a strong background in marketing within multiple industries in Silicon Valley and Manila, particularly in the field of school architecture, where her love for design, psychology, technology, engineering, community relations, environmentalism, and entrepreneurship all converged. And she has created Filiology, an online platform that connects local artisans from indigenous communities to both local and global audiences. Filiology wants Filipinos and international audiences to rediscover Philippine culture through education and stories of discovery, revive and sustain the communities she partners with by integrating traditional design with modern technology. And lastly, reconnect local artisans to the world, or may I say, local artisans who are mostly women, who serve as examples of sustainable practices and are living the heritage of Philippine cultural roots and values. So help me welcome Gwendolyn Torres.
Woohoo! Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Gwen. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited just by listening to all that intro, that long intro. What you've
Impressive,
been
right?
really impressive. Just the perfect person to have to end the Women's Month. That's correct. Let's get started because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of questions and maybe some insights to discuss with Glenn or Gwen would like to share with us. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I want to talk about life before putting up the business and your model, your business model, because there are a lot of the audience are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, and we would love to know how you get started with that. Because whether it's a non-profit or for-profit company or an industry, your specialty has been all about diving deep in the operations and marketing to find your authentic voice and unique value proposition and communicating these messages through multiple channels. So, would you tell us more about these past work experiences that have given you the skills to launch a social enterprise, which is really huge?
Yeah, so I think I've worked with different sorts of companies. I mean, I devoted most of my earlier career to school architecture, marketing it, designing it, and part of that really involves a lot of stakeholders, and it's a lot of listening. It's a lot of trying to get what everybody wants to see, or even trying to get them to envision a future that they may not see today. So, and it differs for every school. So in that, the skill set there really was about trying to understand different personalities behind different demographics, the roles that people play as administrators, as teachers, as students, as parents. So the value proposition for each type of person is different. And so there's that whole mental exercise for the past 12 years, whether you're designing it or marketing it. I started designing, and then I moved into marketing. So in order to market well, you have to know the product, which with for schools, the product is never the same. And we always used to say,
That's true.
with schools, it's always a prototype, and then the next one builds on that prototype. And what we realized as I went through my career, and the bosses that I work with, the wonderful designers that I work with, is a lot of the time they put a lot of passion into the schools because they actually cared about the end user. So it was that sort of translation of an expression or this love for the community and everybody in it. So when I'm talking about value proposition to different companies, it's about extracting the values of everybody that uses it, creates it, markets it. So it's listening for value, universal values, not anything related to like religion or class. So there's always some unifying value that's
Mhm.
underpinning everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
From what you're saying, because I think because a lot of entrepreneurs think that it's maybe easy to do this, but actually it's a long process. From what you've Andalita, from what you mentioned earlier, like it comes from the school and the prototypes, and even connecting with all these people and really researching about these people who are working with you and also your end users. So how did I know that you came from US? Is that right?
right, California, Silicon Valley.
California. Yeah. So from there, how did Filiology come to fruition, and when did you decide to go back to the Philippines full time?
Okay, so I of course, before I had a daughter, um, goals were different, and so this is Women's Month, so I actually do want to go through the whole process of, or talk about, what happens when you do have a kid. How does that affect
Yeah.
your career and your
How
goals?
old is your
And
kid?
so she's 10 right now, and I was 30 at the time when 31 when I had her, 30 when I got pregnant. So I was like right smack dab in the middle of my career, and I think my personality has always been that I was going to spend my life, quote unquote, saving the world through sustainable architecture. I mean, I could see myself doing that, and as you would have it, I fell in love, and very quickly, and a lot of women go through this, and you're not, maybe we're trained to, these days it's either one or the other, right? There's like a polar, oh, you're a career woman or you're a family woman. Like me, I identify as a career woman. I don't think I even imagine myself in a white dress. And I definitely, because I'm an environmentalist, I actually chose for myself that I would never have a child. And then I even said, I'll joke, right? I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll have one and then ditch the guy later because,
I can very well relate to this, Gwen.
yeah. And I want to be able to say that because I'm sure women all over have different ideas of what they wanted. And so, and then, yeah, and I fell in love. I'm like, great. And he wanted to have a family. And I actually had aspirations to take my master's all over like different countries. And I remember having it on the wall and saying, this is what I want to do. And he goes, yeah, but don't you want to have a family? And there's that internal conflict as a woman where I've been told I have to have a family in order to be a success. But the other side of me is like, but I want my career. And so naturally, me being a Filipino woman, I thought, okay, maybe I should prove to my guy how much I love him and agree to like have a child. And so we did. And it was a very fast paced thing. I mean, he took me to Paris. We got engaged there. I mean, the whole shebang. And you inside you're like, I want this, but not really, because I still have this career. So, cut to us having a kid, and she is half Indian, half Filipino. And there was a time, of course, I was young, and I don't think I was thinking. I didn't really know myself well enough, and I don't think he did either. And of course, it didn't work out. So parang nagka,
So you had to ask yourself again, like what now?
Yeah, the joke that I had been saying, where I'll have one and then I'll just
and then the guy leaves.
Came true. Yeah. And so and then I laugh about it now, but of course it was difficult at the time because I was faced with, do I continue to pursue what I wanted to pursue, and how am I going to do that as a single mother? And the decision even to leave an unhappy or a relationship that didn't fit was there. So eventually I did, and then I started asking myself, what do I want for her? What do I want for me? And so I realized that my priorities changed, and I decided that my focus will be both. And so I realized, okay, let me go home to the Philippines and be like a family woman to my kid, because I needed to be the mother and the father. And then I said to myself, well, one thing I need to teach her is the culture. She doesn't have a dad to teach her Indian roots, but I surely can give her Filipino roots. I looked around, the United States, and I said to myself, I actually don't want my child growing up with just this culture. And so we went home, and I started working for the family, and I went back and got my master's, because I really wanted to get my master's in entrepreneurship. That was the dream, to get my master's. And the great part about the Filipino family is that they're very supportive of, and there's that whole extended family. And I found strength in that, because it was very traumatizing not to have it work out. And I mean, I'll say it was, I left because it was abusive, it was toxic, and that's a whole different story. And recovering from that, I needed my family, and I also needed to find an outlet for myself. To kind of, you lose yourself in these relationships as a woman, and especially Filipino women, we want to please and we want to be that woman. And it took me so long to get it back. And I want to say that the reason why this company exists is the relationships that I formed with the fellow mothers, with the indigenous women. I actually got so much healing and love and sisterhood from it, that what drove it wasn't just me wanting to give the culture to my kid, but also for her to share culture with their children. And for me, when I see them, it's kind of like I want to share, whatever blessings or talent that I have with you. So I mean, I'll share with you just a few of the pictures from from there.
Yes, please.
Yeah, of some of the first women that I met. And so let me just get to that here.
But while you're doing that, thank you, Gwen, for sharing your story. I think a lot of women would be able to relate to your story. Like some people might get the courage to talk about it, and this may be the first step for them.
Yeah, and it took me a while to realize that's something I need to share, and I joke about it sometimes, and I think the first step is really realizing you've got so much to offer, and to surround yourself with people who love you, and not to think that things are impossible. And so this picture is me and my kid traveling all the way to the mountains of Kalinga, and I told myself, if I'm going to start something, I'm going to do it because I need to model for my child that it is possible to do these things, because I don't want her in a situation where she thinks she sees me beaten, or like without any choices, or that I lack the courage. And so I needed to, even when we started the company, and we decided to get in touch with the community. It was the first one that um, we had on board. I didn't even know anybody, and so I told my partners, I just want to go up there and check it out. And so I did, and then eventually I took her with me so she could be immersed in the culture, and she started making friends with the children. Right. So see, these are some of the children. So we're still good friends with them. They know each other when we go back, and there's up there, and I'm working with the community, and the mothers, they're like, why don't you just leave her with us and do the work and do what you need to do? And I leave her with the kids all day. They run around with in the forest, and she'll come back saying, I saw pigs, we're climbing trees, and it's nice to have that sort of extended family, and the values are still there, the sweetness is still there, the culture, the food, and it's a wonderful thing. So that's where I drew a lot of my strength as I recovered from everything. It became a distraction, but also a sort of strength. And these women, they work hard, they're entrepreneurs, and so we get along, figuring out how to solve product problems, pricing, logistics, things like that. And you see in the back there is a husband holding his thumb up. And what was really nice about going to these communities, which was very surprising for me, is how involved the husbands are in the work of the mothers, the wives, and how supportive they are. And that was such a touching thing to me, because I came from a relationship that every time I excelled, it made him feel inferior. But these men, they were supportive, and I was so happy to surround my kid with that kind of energy, where the men didn't mind that their women were leading, that they were being a voice for the community. And I thought that was such an important thing to show her. And I'm actually going to go into more of the psychological aspects of what happens when women are entrepreneurs, even in the indigenous community. So this picture now, I do want to talk about it, because I'm going to kind of backtrack, because before we even started traveling, there was like a Holy Week in 2016, and my mom and this is another Philippine tradition. We did like simbang, what is it? Visita Iglesia. No, Visita Iglesia.
No, this is Holy Week, right?
Holy Week, okay, not Christmas.
Although we've done that also. Yeah, so one of the churches that we visited during Visita Iglesia was this church in La Union. Some of my products I get from La Union, and that's what the Inabel blankets and all of that. And we visited this church, and the legend behind it is that two brothers prayed to this to Mary, and they built this shrine, and they asked for livelihood for their community. And shortly after they prayed, this beach, and some people might know it, but this beach washed up with all these wonderful, smooth, beautiful rocks, and and it became a livelihood for the community until now. And I don't know how long that's been going on, but when you go to this beach, it just baffled me how even like where did these stones come from? Because La Union is noted for surfing, and this particular beach has rocks. And I was laying on this beach with my kid, and we had visited all these different vendors by the side of the road, some weaving communities, and I hadn't started the company yet, and I was about to finish and I laid there and I listened to the ocean and the rocks like hitting the waves, and it just was almost musical, very spiritual. And in my heart, like it's almost like a whisper. It's like I heard the word Filiology and livelihood, and like teach people about the cultures um, that you discover, because we've at that point my daughter and I had been traveling just so I could teach her more of the culture. They don't have parks in Manila, so we had to go out and go to the natural spots, and then I realized, I spent so many years marketing, so many years working for other people. Where can I put my talents where it will actually help families, help my culture, teach my child? And so this beach was the place where the concept was born, from this livelihood miracle beach.
Can you tell
So
our viewers the name of this beach?
it's called
Oh
Luna
yeah.
Beach. It's called Luna Beach,
Ooh.
and the thing is, people can actually go there and get rocks, but I always saw them don't go there and just collect
Hindi ba
and
yun
then
illegal?
yeah. So you
Sige.
no, but the local community is supposed to be able to use it for livelihood. So the best thing that you can
Oh,
do
okay.
is hire them, buy it from them, things like that. And but again, be careful of how much you get. But they've been doing it for decades, and it still seems to replenish them. So I don't even know where those rocks come from until now, really. So that's that. Yeah, it's a great beach, and it's very, very peaceful.
Yeah, that sounded like a really amazing adventure. And I'm just gonna backtrack because I've been listening to your whole story, and one of the things I got is yun nga, parang you don't need to box yourself in, what the society would define you, like are you a career woman or are you a family woman, and you are a living testimony that you can do both and you can be more than that. So I mean, this is giving me a lot of hope. And
I'm glad.
so
I'm glad.
yeah, and it's very clear that you're really passionate about what you're doing. You love it. You are embracing your story, and I want to know. Well, you've walked us through the how you change, or how you turned your passion into changing this community. But in terms of business, so how did you come up with the business model with this social impact?
Okay, so you know how normally people pay for marketing services, right?
Mm-hmm,
And and so for me, what I ended up doing, because I have like this soft spot, and I it's almost like a fault, because a lot of the time I end up buying in bulk, like the vendor, and I'm like, oof, what do I do with this? So it's almost like I like to give away to charity, but then when it came to the different I said, can I buy this whole thing? And then so it ended up me buying the bulk of it. And what I realized, what I was doing was I was buying the capital for Filiology. And what I was doing was I was taking on the risk of marketing it. So I was paying them for whatever work that they did, and then I took it on upon myself to market the products with my partners. So it's a very different model, because we take on the risk, because a lot of the time people will consign and then kawawa the producer, because they're lending to you all this inventory, and then you only pay them when you
When you
when you
sell.
sell.
Resale,
Whereas
yeah.
us Whereas us sometimes, and I do it wrong sometimes because sometimes I like them so much or I feel like they need a lot of help and I'll buy a bunch and it might sit here for like a year because I'm still trying to figure out what market do I sell it to? How do I sell it to? Do I need to alter it? So there's like a backlog of products that I still have to push out, but I'm still trying to find the value proposition for it or the
Uh-huh.
timing for it. Like for example, like one of the communities, the cloth was so expensive I couldn't move it out on its own. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put this in masks and put the story in the mask. So I asked permission. Can I make masks out of this? Because it's been sitting here, and I know I bought it for a while, but I want it to move. So they're like, yes, go ahead, go ahead. And so things like that. So the business model really is kind of like being a charity, but really being strategic about how to sell it.
But you got it. I mean, you got the strategy. So I'm guessing that this is also calculated risk for you.
Yeah, so we do have criteria for what or when we first started, we're like, okay, let's set some criteria because there's so many products out there. So
Mm-hmm.
the initial goals were kind of like, I want to make sure every region is represented. So when before we even launched, I had to travel up and down the Philippines, and I was very adamant about it must be Luzon, it must be Visayas, it must be Mindanao, even if it's one community per, because I wanted to show off the diversity, and I also wanted to find out how are they different, how's the food different, what are the symbolisms, things like that, and so that became the impetus. For why we designed the website the way it is. You'll see it says Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and I'd love to still redesign it to be like per tribe, but I mean, there's just not enough time to do that. But we do have the products tagged per tribe and sort of like a little tidbit about each one that we've learned that's sort of characteristic about each tribe. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just about selling the products, but also educating the people about culture, educating them about all these people who work behind the products. And I really love it.
Yeah, and I always forget to say it that the store or the products, they really are just a vehicle for us to share the stories, because you can't go you really can't go out there and say, oh, look at this, look at that. Yes, you can, but how do you make sure that the community is sustained? Because I can go there, visit them, I can ask them all these questions. Maybe they might share enough to trust me, but how do I pay them back for their knowledge, for their expertise?
Right.
So parang every time I visit and I want a little bit more information, I also kind of in my head say, I gotta buy this much. Like
Like,
that,
which
because at the end of the day, it's their livelihood, and even knowledge is not free, and you have to
Yeah.
credit them. So a lot
Yeah.
of the time also, if you've noticed, like when I do these talks, I really don't like to be called like the expert on it, or or a lot of the time I don't even like my face on anything. If you notice in our feed, none of our founders are really on there known, because like I said, we work for them. They're in the
Mhm.
spotlight. Their narrative is the spotlight. I don't want people fixated on me or the partners. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally
which
understand.
leads me to my next question, because I want to ask you how people like Susie and I, and I guess everyone watching the show, can support our local weavers. So let's talk about purchasing power and the influence of businesses like yourself in these communities. So, what are the economic and psychological benefits of weaving to rural women?
Okay, so I'm gonna share some slides that
Yay!
I've prepared, and there are some videos as well. So here we go. So I thought I talked about the priorities, right, of the company, which is education, tech, and reclamation. So usually when I do this part, it's sort of like um, people expect me to say, okay, what do we focus on? So it's sort of like a tagline motto thing. So I'll just go through what I usually say, and all the cultural, uh, psychological, and economic is actually folded into the sort of framework that we usually kind of talk about. So when I talk about reclamation of sustainable culture, what I usually say is that, you know, the population of the Philippines, documented indigenous people, there must be 20, like the last I saw in 2014 is that about 25% is indigenous, and that's the documented. So a lot of their culture really is about being sustainable. Like even if you look at your grandparents and how they're, or even at your family party and you bring Tupperware, or how you
Yeah.
how you how you can throw away, you take out boxes and you collect them in your cabinets. It's an old Filipino, draws back all the way to our indigenous culture because we're inherently sustainable. And so it's bringing that back, and realizing that we come from a background of a culture that really is about taking care of the environment, not being wasteful, right? So that's this, and I'm going to talk about this in a sense of bringing back that culture like later, and then education, which is our priority. So here we're talking about the importance of education being inclusive and being very sensitive to the fact that we have cultures in the Philippines that don't necessarily thrive in a Western education, or we've been colonized for hundreds of years with no sensitivity to um, the language or of the different tribes, the different cultures. So it matters. And so when we talk about education in Filiology, it's about catering to that, and it's catering to that on a technological platform. So this is what I usually say when I'm talking about our priorities. Now, digging deeper, um, what we're talking about really is one, cultural impact when we're talking about reclamation of sustainable culture. So in order to preserve our culture, the educational system has to maintain the value and respect for existing traditions. And going back to when I started with schools, we've always had to extract the value that the schools have and respect whatever traditions are there, the diversity that's there. And that was part of designing a school. So I think when I started designing the company, this became a priority because to me, the online store is my school, right? It is our school. Our social media is school. And so we have to communicate values. So as an educator myself now and a mother, I consider myself an educator. I also teach college on the side. And what I found is research has shown educators who don't recognize the value, the cultural background of indigenous and other culturally diverse students, it can instigate a vicious cycle of self-doubt, and it leads us to kind of devalue their home, their learning experience, capabilities, and gifts. So what's happened with our culture is that hundreds of years of colonization, being told that your language doesn't matter, that our language is better, that our system of beliefs is better, is that we've really on a country scale, we've decided that we don't have to look at our old way of living, that maybe the indigenous people, oh, they're there, and sometimes we'll have stories about maybe like somebody um blowing smoke in somebody's ear to medicate or something like that, and we discount it as something parang old school, right? But when you look
Right.
at sustainable culture, you'll see that even the way that they build their homes was sustainable. It was very sensitive to the environment. And
Environment.
the we're building right now, sometimes we build these huge glass buildings without realizing, okay, that's going to heat up the building. You're going to need more aircon, and that's just not sustainable. So, people applying solutions to our country without understanding the climate, the culture, all of that. So it really puts us in a very horrible position. And on a level of the students, that's basically telling them your home life doesn't matter. You should get out and you should try to go abroad, which is why we have all these wonderful, talented people going out. So what do we do, right? And so, like I visited these tribes. So this is like a group of this is in South Luzon, the Mangyans, and I was working with a group of nuns that was trying to make sure that they had like culture-based education because um, lowland tribes historically have been conquered, and so culturally they're really shy. They have a lot of self-doubt, and they're afraid to speak out, and they don't have a lot of confidence in school. So I'm going to show you this video and you'll get an idea of what is the. Can you hear it?
Mm.
So that's Mindoro.
Mm-hmm. Is it just me or I cannot hear the sound?
Yeah.
Oh, you can't hear the sound.
I can't hear the audio either. So maybe
It's subtitled.
maybe you can just help us out. Like, what are we seeing?
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Hold on a sec.
I see one of your influencers. I think her name is Aya Fernandez. She's an actress and a social entrepreneur as well. I freaking love her. She's wearing she's on your feed almost all the time, right?
Yeah. So here she's talking about how important it is to integrate the elders into the educational system. So you can have Western education, but you should complement it with elders who can interpret the education so that the next generation is balanced. There. So she's talking about how important it is to make sure that the culture is transmitted via the elders, even as you go through modern education.
Yeah, again, what will this require of the educational system? And we're already talking about weaving, right? Which probably requires like a lot of one-on-one learning, and you have like the students need to have that commitment to study this art form.
Yeah, so in some of the communities that we've worked with, and I can't say that we directly influenced it, but I think we might have been a catalyst for it, is that as we start talking to communities and we start to appreciate through the questioning what's all the stories behind the weaves, and then that we start to buy from them, what they're starting to do is they're starting to realize, yes, our culture is of value. So again, reclaiming that. And then they start to have these discussions of how do we integrate it into the school system. So there are some that have made it a requirement for graduation. And the school that you saw here, they integrated it into their education system. So there are quite a few, and I won't claim that we were the ones, because we have nothing to do with that, but we do encourage it, and by the questioning that we have, it tends to snowball. And so that's the cultural impact that we're looking at. I don't want to be the one to create the school, but I do want to start the conversation and inspire people to realize that we need to have it. in our school system in order to keep it alive.
I guess my next question would be, what about interpreting trends from the city, influences from, I guess, the global trends as well? Are we trying to bring those to these communities and influence their design, or is it something that like what do you do in terms of design for your products?
I think it goes both ways, and I don't think you can generalize really because the communities are very different in capabilities. So some might be more like even within the community itself, there are certain groups or micro entrepreneurs that have aspirations to have more modern designs, more modern colors, and they'll go towards that direction. And then there are some that would rather stick to these traditional designs, these traditional colors. And again, what I'm saying is those are both of value. And so what we do is when I work with certain women, micro entrepreneurs, I try to find out do they love to design, and do they talk about it a lot? Do they want to be given pegs? So sometimes I'll give them like a peg and like, what do you think of this? You want to make this? And then and so we work on that, and then maybe another one will give me a more traditional design, and then so on my part I have to be able to sell it in a sense where I have to be able to find the value in that traditional design and then be able to market it out, right? So an example would be like, I'm trying to think. Oh, like the yakan seputangan is a very traditional headpiece. It's very expensive, and you don't. I mean, I've seen it put on pillows and things like that. I don't think they have a problem with it. I think they've adjusted over time. But if we want to preserve that tradition, then we do, like us, we interpreted it as we used it for the Cancer Warriors campaign because they wear the bandanas and there's special prayers, uh, traditions that go into weaving it. And so when we associated it with the Cancer Warriors Foundation, we really folded into the products the spirituality and the healing power of prayer or intention. So there's both sides. Short answer is that.
Yeah, what was the last time you traveled to these communities? And I guess like from your travels, and I guess you stayed in some of these communities as well, right? What are the biggest challenges that you've seen over time?
Um, let's see. Raw material can be a challenge getting it to them. Some of them are very remote for they do need thread, and so a lot of the time the thread actually comes from here or China. It has to be sent there, and then the finished product comes back here. There's that. Or like for example, if they make their own raw material for like say the banig, there might be a typhoon there, and then it'll destroy the entire thing, and they have like nothing to work with, or they don't have the dye and it can't come in. And so, like the last time I traveled was, of course, 2019.
Same with us.
2019, and it's been a while, and definitely I've been wanting to, but the thing is, the thing at the back of my head is I don't want to go there and then bring something to them, and I don't want to impose that way. So I'm here, but we keep in touch, things like that, and a lot of people think, oh, do they have the technology? Of course, they're normal people. They've got a cell phone. Everyone's got a cell phone.
And they have signal.
Yeah, they have. Well, some parts no, but you'd be surprised. Their signal might be better than us sometimes kasi walang kalaban sa signal.
Well, at least you have, you still have communications with them. I'm sure things will get better, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I mean, this community is something that we also, like Sarah and I, would also love to visit maybe one day. And so Gwen, thank you for sharing all of that. But now I want to talk about, since we're celebrating the Women's Month, and I want to talk about you as a women entrepreneur. So we've been talking about for 47 minutes now about what you do. And Philippines is one of the, I guess, in terms of the number of the increasing trend of business of women in the country, Philippines is like on top in the world. Okay, but I know that as a woman, we still face challenges. Or yeah, are you still facing challenges, and what are those in the entrepreneurial space?
In the entrepreneurial space, well, definitely because of the pandemic,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
been so many adjustments. I mean, that's top of mind, right? So it's hard for me to not talk about the effects of the pandemic because, okay, so I am a single mom. My kid
Mm-hmm.
is online. I'm working from home, and then I have staff to make sure are safe. And then
Mm-hmm.
you've got these communities I can't get to. So the challenges really are like, how do I, especially right now with the products in Filiology, we do have the masks that are kind of like steady, and people keep buying them. And of course, right now a lot of our stuff is accessories. So well, we're still seeing like the earrings and headbands because people are, now they actually working to get pretty again because like last year, I think we all spent our time in pajamas, kind of like braless and like makeupless. And I noticed when 2021 hit, people started caring a little bit more about what they look like on their Zoom because they realized, oh, we're in this for the long haul. I better start taking care of myself.
Exactly.
Like even for me, like I wouldn't even put like I would put like my jacket on over my pajamas for a meeting or something. But now I really get dressed for I'll get dressed. Like my daughter and I were like, let's get dressed every morning or finding that motivation.
Yeah.
So there's that. On an entrepreneur level, sorry, I'm getting distracted because a lot of the issues really are on the self care. But
We can relate.
yeah, but like balancing out your career all from home. And so, we wear so many hats. And what I really had a hard time with was managing my time and then not feeling like I'm not doing enough, or just because I'm home overextending myself. So I've really had to be very disciplined about my time. So we're approaching year one, and I realized on the last quarter of 2020 there are times that I have to allot, like my morning time as an entrepreneur. I have to I have to pay attention to what's going on in the world, because whatever is going on in the world, especially with the pandemic, is going to affect my month. So what I do in the morning is I really allot time for either reading books, watching the news, especially the news, and different channels. I'm talking about local, international, because different perspectives are important to me. And so that will educate me on what might come ahead, because I need to stay ahead for not just for me or the business, or it's more of for the people that are behind the business, which is the communities, my employees. I have to make sure I stay a step ahead, because how is the pandemic going to hit us? How am I going to make sure that I can keep going? So because I'm a mother, I always think of everyone like a children. So moms think like years ahead. And that has become a habit for me, where I might go too far and people are like, what are you thinking? I'm like, no, 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 you wait. I will be right. And usually I'm right, you know? So there's that. And then yeah, and then you have to give attention to your child. And so we have this thing where, okay, I have work hours and she has school hours. If you need my help, you can come to me. But the time that I assist you is between lunch hour together. So we'll cook together. I'll help her with what she needs help with that and that time period. So you really have to understand what your priorities are as an entrepreneur, as a woman, as a family woman. So if you want it all, you have to allot time for everything that you want to be
I
and
love
every day.
that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm thinking like that's why it's perfect that women or even moms are the perfect entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs also think 5 years, 10 years ahead, and it's perfect because moms also think like that. And I want to know because I think the
That's my daughter.
community.
Hi.
Hi.
You want to come be part of the show? What's her name?
Vega.
Hi,
Hello.
Vega.
Answer for your mom, because I have the next question. Okay, so we
Yes.
during this pandemic, it became Sarah and I found each other online. It became stronger for us women to to find someone. I don't know. The community building is much easier, and also because we've been experiencing a lot of things, anxiety, everything with the business, with our family. We found comfort on with each other. And for you, how do you think we can support other women entrepreneurs?
I think, well, find collaborations that you can work on. Be there for each other. I mean, I've been talking to, yeah, it's weird. I was just thinking about this because I think during this pandemic, my relationship to women has become stronger because emotionally, if I need them, they're there. And even if I don't talk business with them, I just want to check in and be there for them. And I think on an emotional level, just to be there for an entrepreneur because we're going through a lot. We don't sleep well at night. We're thinking about other people, and a lot of the time we're not taking care of ourselves. And so for someone to say, "Hey, just stop and have a drink with me on Zoom," or
Oh,
you want
yes.
or you want to watch a movie with me on Zoom. I mean, we can watch it together. Those kinds of things. Or you have if you have issues with, you're stressing out with school, all these expectations that you've set on yourself and your child. Talk to somebody or check in with someone that maybe they're handling it on their own, or you can tell. So just look for the kind of signs that someone's having a hard time. But in terms of business, yes, of course. I mean, find those collaborations, but it really is on the heart level that you're gonna jive. And then the business follows.
I
The
get
business
that. I get
follows.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even with the non-female collaborations, like I know during the pandemic, the first thing I do is reach out to people I feel need help during this time, and then there's that closeness there, whether they're male or they're female. It just be there. I think the EQ that we have to have during this time has to be a lot stronger than before.
I
I
agree. That's
agree.
true. And this is one final question for me. And I know a lot of people are listening and want to be inspired by what you're gonna say, but and I'm pretty sure like a lot of people are starting something they're genuinely interested about and passionate about. And I want to, in your words, through your words, I want you to inspire them. What do you love about what you do?
What do I love about what I do? I think it's because I'm being true to myself. It's that whole um
Congruence.
as a mother, like it's like embracing every part of you, as a mother, as a woman, as somebody who's fighting for her country. I mean,
Yes.
it's getting up in the morning knowing every little effort that I do, however small, is affecting the life of my child. It's inspiring her. I'm being a model for her. I'm also being a model for other women, and it's giving them a license to be who want to be, and not to be boxed in, So when somebody tells me something like, "Are you crazy?" and I'm like, "Yeah, I am." So thanks.
We all need to be mad for
Yeah,
the right reasons.
be a little crazy, and do what you need to do, and nobody can actually tell you. They can, I mean, but deep down inside, what at the end of the day is going to make you feel fulfilled, and being able to do that every day, and not wasting your time settling for what other people tell you need to do. It makes life worth it, right? So we're in
Totally
pandemic right
agree.
now, right? And sometimes you think, what am I doing, wasting my time all day waiting for this pandemic to end? But you can do something. Yeah.
Oop.
I think now's the perfect time to rethink about your goals as an individual, or if you're a business person. How do you, I hate to say the word pivot, it's been overused for the last year.
It's the word of the
Um,
year.
it's the word of the year. But
It
let's
is.
let's let's
Yeah.
let's go back to talking about Filiology and what's next for your brand. What's the most important goal for your business this year, and how are you moving it forward?
I think I've learned a lot during the pandemic, and I actually just had a meeting with a few people about where I wanted to take this. So I used the whole pandemic to kind of see we needed to stand and help more people, and more revenue in. So I might shift the business model a
Pivot.
little bit. Yeah, yeah, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But redesign it. Yeah, restructure it. So right now, as we continue to sell, there are certain things that I am changing or doing a study on what will work for us and better for the communities. And a lot of that, I would say, is taking things, um, taking things out into the world more, empowering more of the Filipino women outside of the country, and kind of linking up with what we're doing. And so I know that there's a lot of people that want to help, and so I would like to find a way for them to help and kind of spread the narrative that the uh, that the culture is of value, the knowledge of the indigenous people is of value, and the Filipino people have something amazing to bring to the table.
Because right now your products are available on eBay. Is that correct? You're able to
eBay,
ship abroad.
yes, yes, but I'm still not happy with the efficiencies and all that. So, like in the back of my head, I'm constantly looking at efficiencies and how to spread things out a little bit more, expand things. So, what's next for us is a little bit more. It's more expansion, I would say, without disclosing too much.
It's gonna be a big surprise, you guys. We're gonna make the announcement probably on our show, if Gwen lets us and she's ready. So I guess you can invite our viewers how they can get in touch with Filiology and get your amazing products and help these communities.
Yeah, so if you're here in the Philippines, you can find the products on www.shopee.ph/Philology. And then if you're abroad, you can just see our main website, which is www.philology.com. We ship all over the world. If you do have an eBay account, you can use that as well. And eBay also has the ability to ship all over the world. So right now, though, there is a pandemic, so the shipping is a little bit more expensive going abroad, just so you know. Depending
And
how high your COVID cases are in your country, there is a surcharge. Yes.
and can we also talk about your um so Filiology is currently raising funds for a couple of causes. The Cancer Warriors, which you've already mentioned earlier, Cancer Warriors Foundation and reforestation in Zambales. So,
Yes.
will you please tell our audience about these partnerships and invite them to participate?
Okay. Yeah. So we partnered with we're partnering with nonprofit organizations as well. So what we're doing is in Zambales, we've partnered with Mad Travel. They're like a social enterprise that's for tourism, reforestation, livelihood with the Yangil community. And so they were hit really hard by the pandemic, and they actually started a Mad Market, which sells like produce. But with us, they grew bamboo, and then the bamboo they turned into wooden bamboo pearls. They're stars. So for every star that's bought, a tree can be planted. So we started launching this in December for Christmas. But what I did realize is the pearl or the stars are kind of decorative any time of the year, and you can actually plant a tree any time of the year and then save the parol for later. So we encourage people to buy a parol so that they can, for Christmas we I bought a bunch for people, like I bought them trees, and then you can use them for birthday gifts, anniversaries, things like that. So rather than buying things that might get thrown out, go to a landfill, you can actually plant a tree. And so, yeah, there's that. And then for the Cancer Warriors Foundation, um, what we've done there really is, so some of the others that I work with from the Kalinga and the Yakan community, like I mentioned before, they pray over, or they have these rituals to sort of bless the weeds. And what we did was basically we set aside some bandanas, what we call like healing bandanas, and they have these crystals that traditionally are used for healing ceremonies. And so the whole idea with the effort with the Cancer Warriors Foundation is to create a culture of care around the children that need help. So it's not just about medication, but the bandana really is about letting them know that the whole community is caring for them, or they're not alone. And so if you buy like a Yakan bandana, it gives a child with cancer that, and then funds go towards the Cancer Warriors Foundation for on their education, because they need to be schooled outside of the normal school, because they're very susceptible to diseases, and then they also need medication. So now during the pandemic, they were wearing masks because they're very susceptible to disease. But now everyone's wearing a mask. So when we talked to the foundation, they saw that we had masks on. Like, maybe you can use the masks as well to raise funds. So I said, until June, what we'll do is discount all the masks that we're selling at 5%, and still got a lot of portion to go to the Cancer Warriors Foundation. So we're trying to support not only the indigenous communities, but the children that are in need of like physical healing, spiritual healing, things like that. So that's the Cancer Warriors Foundation.
This is a really good initiative. I learned a lot from your website. You guys should check out filiology.com. I'm just gonna say an interesting fact about like one of my discoveries, because Gwen has a lot of stories there. She's a good blog. I learned that the Kalinga bead called Ajongan. Don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but because my mom's very superstitious, and you know how we buy like every Chinese New Year or every New Year for that matter, like you buy those crystals, those bracelets that will um give you fortune. Let's just say.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
she left.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get
Yeah, she's gonna get it. Cause there's this
Sorry.
so okay, there she is.
it.
So talk
So
to these about talk to us about these beads.
okay, so this is also part of the Cancer Warriors effort. So this is an actual red bead, a rubo, and they use it in the healing ceremonies of the warriors back then. But even until now, this is like you'll see some of them will wearing this, especially if they're sick. So it's really the color of blood of life force. So it's about health. And then these beads, if you turn them, they look like an eye. So they are turned inward towards health, so that you're looking towards health and life force. So when they made this is really why we decided to tie this to the Cancer Warriors Foundation, because we're talking about like a spiritual focus on health and well-being. And we have an awesome culture because we didn't know I didn't know we had sort of, even in Greece they have like an evil eye. They also have it in China, and here we are buying from other countries, and this has been around. But these do have like Ming Dynasty origins, but that's also the interesting part. And then these are made from upcycled plastic, so they're not the actual real, um, the
The
real.
glass bead.
Uh, this one is, but this is handmade, hand molded, and going back to the whole sustainable culture thing. The origins of these beads were that um, the in the 70s or maybe 60s, plastic started entering the community, and they didn't know what to do with them, especially like hard toothbrushes, combs, things like that. And the pamana beads of the Kalinga, they would sell them for money. Sayang, because they would lose their pamana. So what they started doing was they said, why not melt this plastic down, imitate these beads, and sell them so they can keep their pamana, and then they can talk. Well, they don't really talk about the meaning unless you ask. So yun. I mean, you can find the story behind these on our YouTube under the Kalinga Quest.
That's pretty interesting.
Super cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are not perfect, and a lot of people like, how come they're not the same? And they're hand molded.
Oo. Artisanal.
Yeah.
Yan yung ano talaga.
Yes.
The
Yes.
craft.
I love it.
Craftsmanship.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess I hate to wrap this up, but I'm pretty sure that you can still catch up with all the all the insights in our page, and also if on the social media of Filiology, and also the website, so you can check out all these stories, amazing stories. I have to read about that. I'm pretty interested about that. And Sarah, what is your biggest takeaway for today's webinar?
Actually, this is something that we haven't discussed yet. I was
Mm-mm.
meant to bring it up earlier because I came from fashion retail, and I was reading a lot about those low cost, those indigenous weaves, right? That they're manufacturing in China. And for me, we already have this tradition that we need to take care of, and I guess pass on to the, I mean, we need to sustain this, right? This is our
Mm-mm.
history. So I guess my message for anyone who's watching is shop handloom fabrics and choose to buy from local artisans instead.
Mm-mm.
Because yun nga, parang Gwen has shown us how, like, how many of these people, parang they're Filipinos also, and they're oftentimes they're forgotten, right? We don't know how to
Yeah.
support them, and here's your chance. And also, I read in your blog kasi si Alina Talyad, you did an interview with her. She's another environmentalist, and she said something that really was one of the reasons why I was compelled to do an interview with you. And she said that supporting local and indigenous communities is an act of decolonization, solidarity, joy, and hope. And I guess we're living in a time where, reclamation of sustainable culture and fighting for the rights of our indigenous people are urgent and imperative.
Yeah.
I agree.
What about you,
Yeah.
Suze?
For me, it's more on. Yeah, Sarah have already talked about the preservation of culture, but for me, I think one thing that really resonated with me is how Gwen has been using her gift, even though she's super busy as a mom. Every day we will live one day at a time. These days, so I love that what she mentioned about you can maximize your day by filling it out with really valuable things that you can do, even just small impact to the world. And aside from being a mom, you can of course create your business for all those people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. You want to use your gift or your passion or your skill to do something like this and live one day at a time, not just survive. So you are living and you are making a difference to the world. And just like what Sarah said, maybe one step, like one concrete step that you can do right now is to support the local. It's the perfect time to do that. Support the local products and support the local entrepreneurs. Support the small entrepreneurs because because it's really hard to get something from outside the country right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's expensive. Yeah.
Exactly. So just support whatever is here because that's also economically and environmentally practical.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Thank you very much, Gwen. And for everybody watching, also support Future of Women Web and Work.
Yes.
We have our own Facebook page. We go live on ESME as well. And we have our YouTube page. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to share it with your friends and loved ones. Susie, do you have anything to promote?
So just you can find me at themodernmaria.co on Instagram and on Facebook. And I just launched also soft launch a program for coaches. So I'm also now coaching other coaches. So if you're interested to use your gift or expertise to coach other people, either on business or something else like health and wellness, then I'm open.
So do contact Susie for that. If you want to check out Gwen again, it's on the ticker. We're flashing it on the screen. Go to Filiology.com, and she's also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Catch me. I'm at the Next Wave Go on Facebook and Instagram as well. And this has been your hosts, Sarah,
Susie. Susie.
and we'll see you in the future.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks,
Gwen. Thank you, Gwen. We'll see you backstage.
Okay.